The heat wave is finally over, and the mornings are damp and cool again. It's honestly such a relief. I hear the blue jays and crows cawing, and I know that an early autumn is on its way. And though I always enjoy the changing seasons, the end of summer is still a bittersweet feeling. As the insect activity dies down, I'm a little worried that I may have planted my squash too late in the season, so I'm really hoping we don't get any early frosts. But even if I do only get one pitiful little acorn squash, I know that I can make the best of it. I can take that one plant, save the seeds, and multiply my chances of success for next season. It's just one of the many reasons that I enjoy seed saving, and I hope that today I can inspire you to do so as well. Seeds are truly one of the great wonders of the natural world. In its tiny packaging are the instructions to create unique plants, using the energy from the sun to convert materials in the air and ground into food and medicine. Some we eat, like a cob of corn where every kernel represents a pollinated seed. In other cases, we eat the fruit of the seed, like this beautiful bell pepper. And some seeds in their fruiting bodies we rarely see, like the fruit of a flowering potato, a poisonous fruit that looks a bit like an unripe tomato. There are many practical reasons to seed save. It can save you money instead of buying seeds or starter plants every year, and it's a great way to make sure that you always have your favorite varieties of fruits, herbs, and vegetables. Historically, seed saving allowed migrating people to transport plants valuable for food, medicine, and culture across oceans and continents, forever altering the landscapes where they're introduced. Industrial agriculture has made food more readily available to people than any point in history. But seed saving in modern day is more important than ever. It represents an effort in the fight against a growing threat to food freedom. Food and seed classified as intellectual property. GMOs, or genetically modified organisms, are foods that have had their DNA altered to express traits that are deemed favorable for food production. It may make a plant grow bigger fruit, or make the plant more resistant to herbicides, pests, or disease. But what do GMOs have to do with seed saving? In the United States, GMO plants are among a group of organisms protected by intellectual property rules as defined in the Plant Variety Protection Act of 1970, which introduced a new set of laws affecting seed saving, seed sharing, and the selling of crops. So what if major seed suppliers in the U.S. only sold GMO seeds? If you wanted to save those seeds and grow twice as many next season, sell an overabundance of your crop, or even share seeds for free with your neighbor, you would be required by law to get permission from and pay the GMO seed producer. Heirloom seeds are naturally occurring seed varieties passed down from generation to generation within a family or community. Heirloom plants tend to thrive in the area where they were bred over a dozen, hundreds, even thousands of years. These seeds rightfully remain in the public domain and belong to all people, free of rules and regulations about their use. Heirloom seeds can help us connect with our family's history, the same way your grandmother's recipe book does. Imagine enjoying a pot of baked beans made the same way your great-grandmother used to make them, and knowing that the beans you grew are the descendants of beans planted by your ancestors. Let's go out into the garden and see what is going to seed and which seeds are ready to harvest. Why are you laying in the sawdust, Chucky? Wipe you off. Look at all that. Weren't dirty enough, huh, Chucks? Oh, you're gonna need a bath. I've been a little lazy about pulling the broccoli out of this bed, so I've actually already harvested the main heads, and there are a couple extra heads coming off that aren't really looking that great. I probably won't eat those, and as you can see, they're already starting to flower. So this wasn't intentional, but I am gonna leave this one here to go to seed. I really enjoyed this one. It's called the sicko broccoli, I think is what it is. Might be saying that wrong, but it was a really delicious broccoli, a nice tender stalk, tasted great in stir fries or if you roasted it. So definitely going to be trying that again. Here is my carrot and onion bed, and a few of my onions are going to seed, and I think I would have stopped this process, but I decided to let those go to seed so that I can collect the seeds. I think this will be good practice for me, because normally I buy onion sets or I buy the seeds from the store and I start those that way. Don't have a great setup right now for starting seeds in the early spring, but I think it's important for us all to start learning how to seed save. So hopefully these will give us some seeds and we'll try growing them next year. So this is a really nice tall dark boar kale that I've been harvesting from all year, and so yeah, you can see where all of the leaves used to be. And oh, and that in the background, that's my husband working on cutting some wood trim for our bathroom, so you might hear some woodworking equipment running while I do this tutorial. So yeah, this is darker boar kale, and like leeks, this is not going to put any seed out until next year. So we'll want to choose a plant or a couple of plants if you want to collect seed from it. If you thought that this plant did really well this year, this is something I'd like to grow again. So you'll want to make sure you leave a couple plants in the ground and overwinter that, and next year you will get some seed from it. I actually didn't have too many of my dark boar kale survive, and that is because I planted a lot of these out way too early. I want to say I planted some of them out in mid to late April, and they all died from frost. So these two here, you can see one right over there, were my two survivors, and I am going to keep both of these in the ground and let them go to seed next year and collect those. So I brought a few implements out for marking plants. So a couple of these are just like produce rubber bands. So you can basically just wrap this around the stalk of a plant so that when you are harvesting from your garden and you're doing weeding, you don't accidentally remove a plant that you want to keep. Another item that I plan to use are these red zip ties. What I like about them is they're super visible, and if I stick them on something like a green bean or some kind of pod, it's going to be very noticeable, and hopefully I won't accidentally harvest anything that I mean to leave for seed. We will try to come in here for now and just wrap this around.
And I'll probably come back to this plant with some twine that I can wrap around the stalk so I can actually continue to harvest some of these leaves, because we'll be eating these pretty much all autumn long. All right. So now let's take a look at a leek plant. These leeks aren't actually done growing. A lot of them are going to stay in the garden probably as late as November. But what I'm looking for here, we want the strongest, biggest plant to collect seed from next year. So that helps increase the chances that we will get strong, viable seeds and that those will produce larger plants as well. So we are looking for very large leek stems in here. And I want to say, yeah, this one right here. So this one to me is a nice, strong, healthy leek plant. And this is likely going to be this is going to be the one that I leave in the garden over winter and then collect seeds from next year. I am going to wrap this rubber band around the base of the plant to make sure I don't accidentally pull this out of the ground when I'm ready to start eating leeks. So now we're looking at my green beans, and as you can see there are two nice really fat pods here, and these were pods we intentionally left to collect seeds from later. So we're not going to eat these. We want to mark them out with the red tags to make sure as we come out here to pick more green beans this late summer and early fall that we don't accidentally harvest these beans as well. So I will do that right now.
After making this video, I realized that the twist ties were better off on the pods themselves rather than at the base of the pod. So I did eventually change the position of each twist tie. So how do you know when your seeds are ready to harvest? It's a tricky question to answer in a single video, as seeds are stored in many forms depending on the type of plant. For this chapter, we'll look at one of the easiest plants to collect seeds from: beans. Black beans are a shell bean, meaning you don't eat the pod like you would green beans, but instead wait for the pod to dry and then harvest the beans inside. My husband says that the best way to harvest black beans is to wait for the entire plant to die, cut the stem at the base, and then bring the pods inside to shell. But for the sake of this video, I will show you other ways to tell how far along your seeds are. If your seed is stored in a pod, like on this black bean, you should wait until the pod is white or brown and has a dry and papery feel. Open one of these pods and check the seed inside. If the seed is soft and green or there's moisture inside, the bean is not mature. Like black beans, most mature seeds will be dark in color. And imagine my surprise to see a praying mantis hiding out in my black bean patch. So now that you have your seeds, you are ready to start your own seed library. Let's talk about how to properly store seeds so that they last. Most seeds require a dark, cool, and dry environment. Light exposure or excessive heat or cold will degrade the seed, and too much moisture can also cause the seed to degrade or even germinate early. Ideally, seeds should be stored in a temperature lower than 50 degrees Fahrenheit and with less than 50% humidity. If I find that my seeds are not completely dry, I like to put them in the dehydrator at 95 degrees Fahrenheit for a few hours to help increase their storage life. Smaller seeds, such as this arugula seed, usually have a shorter longevity than a larger seed such as a bean. For the best germination rate, it is good to replace your seeds year after year with the most recent season's seeding population. I find that small paper bags work great for short-term storage, which would be no longer than a year. Some seeds can be kept viable for multiple years by storing them in a refrigerator with a desiccant. A desiccant is a material added to a container to keep the environment inside consistently dry. When storing seeds, it's important to label everything. You should, at a minimum, put the common name of the plant and the year the seed was collected. If you are hoping to build an extensive seed library, scientific names and the names of specific varieties should also be listed. Advanced seed collectors and companies that sell seed will also list the germination rate and the date of testing. Paper bags are great for short-term seed collection and storage, but for longer term, airtight containers such as canning jars, an upcycled jelly jar, or even an empty chapstick container can be used to store seeds. Just make sure that if the container allows light through, that you store it somewhere dark. My favorite way to organize my most valuable seeds is by using jewelry organizers. You can buy these at pretty much any craft store, and it's a great way to see all of the seeds neatly arranged and labeled, and also serves as a reminder of what seeds I need to replenish. Like passing along antiques to your children and family, or saving money for a rainy day, seed saving is an act of love and preservation. When we preserve the seeds of the plants that we adore, we're passing that joy and abundance down to future generations. I hope that this video has inspired you to take a walk through your garden and take part in keeping our shared history alive and thriving. If you liked this video, you can contribute to the channel's growth by hitting the like button. Thank you so much for watching, and happy harvesting!